What is going on, guys? Marcus here with the Reformation Woodshop. Welcome back to episode 3 of Table Saw Tuesday. In episode 1 of Table Saw Tuesday, I told you guys all about my Delta 36725 table saw, everything I loved, and why it is a good buy for the money. In episode 2, I showed off this router table and how I installed it into the table saw. In today's episode, episode 3, I'm going to be showing you 7 or 8 things that you can make for your table saw that'll make things safer and more efficient for you. The first thing on this list is going to be the saddle jig. What does that even mean? It is exactly what it sounds like. It saddles itself onto your table saw fence and you can push materials through safely while you're anchored to your actual saw. It's a pretty simple project that you can do with scrap wood. All you have to do is measure the top width of your table saw, cut a board to fit it, and add 2 boards to the sides. Adding a nice handle is totally up to you. You can add a little knob or a notch or just a piece of wood that you can hold on to. At the cabinet shop, we'll take a piece of material like this that would otherwise be scrap, and we'll cut scribe from it. Scribe is just a thin 1/4 inch piece of material that hides the seams of cabinets and gives it a nice ornamental look on the wall. So cutting any material to this thickness can be dangerous, but not with this saddle jig. Let's try it out. What's really good about a shop-made jig like this is that it can run through the table saw blade. This may seem unsafe, but it is actually extremely safe because it provides a consistent hold on your material all the way through the cut. The next thing on this list is actually just 1B. It is an addition to your saddle jig, and it is a tenoning jig. All you have to do is have a nice lockdown clamp, attach it to the side with some screws, put it on your fence, lock a piece of wood in, and you can run it through the table saw and create nice slots for wedges for something like a mallet. All right, so let me show you how this guy works. This is a tenon. Maybe I'm putting this into a mallet. I want it to be the handle, and I want to put a couple of wedges in here to make things tighter. I can slap this right here, bring this right there, that will hold. You get nice straight cuts through. If I was to take and push it through here, through the table saw, it wouldn't be symmetrical, so a wedge wouldn't fit in there. The band saw would not take enough material away. The miter saw is good for nothing in reference to this project. This is a tenoning jig attached to the saddle. Item number 3 could be 1C, but we're gonna go ahead and call it number 2. Item number 2 is a spline jig. The reason I say this could have been a part of 1, because this easily attaches to your saddle jig for a safer, easier push. This is one of the fastest ways to make yourself look like a professional craftsman. I took 2 scrap pieces of 2x4, I ripped them down, got all the round edges off of them, cut a 45 here, screw them in on the back. I put 2 screws, making sure that your 45-degree faces are facing down. You can do like the saddle jig and wrap a board over this so that it stays on the fence perfectly, or you can trust your own judgment and hold it tight up against the edge. But this video is about making things safe, so let's make it safe. The reason I think that this is a pretty niche jig that you'll make is because not a lot of people need splines. Splines are used to make accent features in things like mallets, like I did here, or for box joinery. If you want to go in and take a box through this bad boy, you can add splines to make it look nicer, and splines make things stronger. This is not a jig that everyone is going to be using, but it is a jig that makes the table saw safer and more efficient. Item number 3. This is the most obvious thing that should be on this list. Probably should have been number 1, and that is a push stick. Wait, this isn't DIY. A push stick. Obviously, push sticks are boring, and it can just be a scrap piece of material. So you know I had to take this bad boy to the laser and make it look like Superman himself was pushing materials through my table saw. This is super easy. All you need to do is make a handle that you can hold your hand to and a lip that you can grab materials with. What's really good about these push sticks is that you can run them through the table saw with absolutely no consequences whatsoever. That's why you want to DIY. This guy's cool, and I actually use this as my template for this guy, but I don't want to destroy this with my table saw. I'll use this anytime I need to get right up on the blade. Sadly though, I did the engraving backwards, so you have to look from the right side of my table saw to see him pushing material through, but he is pushing the material through. Just like the push stick, the next thing on this list is a have to have if you're a woodworker. You have to have a crosscut sled. You can go without having some of the other things on this list, but if you only make one jig, the crosscut sled is the go-to. I made this bad boy a long time ago, so the footage is kind of old, so bear with me on the quality. When you're making it, the most important thing that you need to do is to make sure that it runs smooth right across your table saw. So whatever strips you're utilizing, you want to make sure that they ride smooth and they fit into your table saw slots really well. After you attach them to the bottom of a piece of MDF or any sort of plywood that you're using, sand them down until they fit and glide smooth across the table saw. After checking them several times, put it on top of the table saw, turn that bad boy on, and make your first cuts. So what do we need a crosscut sled for? Everything. If you have a table saw and a crosscut sled, you no longer need a miter saw. You can cut 45s, 90s, every angle possible on the crosscut sled, as safe as possible. You can square up materials, you can cut things to length, you can batch materials, you can set up stop blocks and cut the same measurement over and over and over and over again. Item number 5 is a taper or jointing sled. If you're looking to make really nice and easy tapered cuts for a kitchen table leg, something like that, you can use one of these jigs. I made one very quickly out of scraps. Obviously, you can tell that is the theme of this video. It's very easy and very inexpensive. This sled right here goes right up against your table saw fence. You clamp down any materials that you want, and it can cut any degree taper that you want, or it can square wood like a jointer would. Put that thing on here, run it through the table saw, and you know that one side is true and perfect. Run it back through your table saw again, and you have two square, perfect parallel sides. Having a jig that can hold down materials and run it through your table saw is really useful. Having something that has hands on your material so you don't have to is very helpful. Item number 6. I already told you that I did not like the insert that is on the table saw that I am currently using, the Delta 36725, so I replaced mine. To make a zero clearance insert, it is very easy. You can get a piece of acrylic, or in my case, a piece of wood. Trace your existing plate, take that bad boy over to the bandsaw or jigsaw, whatever you have to cut materials, follow the lines, cut your shape. Then in order to secure it back into your table saw, you need to make sure you have the appropriate screw holes. After you have it secured, there's not really much left to do. Turn your table saw on, run it up through, and now nothing should drop down into your table saw. This will help with dust collection. This will keep you safe from shrapnel exploding inside of your table saw. The only thing that should go down into your table saw is dust, and if you have proper dust collection, all of that will be sucked out and will be gone forever. Item number 7. This is not something that you see every day, but is something that is useful. If you weren't a fan of the saddle jig that has the ability to rip small materials over and over again, and you weren't a fan of the push stick that can go right through the blade if necessary, I have another final jig for you. This is the thin rip jig. To make this jig, all you really need is a nut, a bolt, and a piece of wood. It really is that simple. Your table saw naturally has these slots on it that you can put things into, so that is where we'll be mounting this thin rip jig at. All you have to do is adjust the slot wherever necessary, put it to the exact width that you want your cuts to be, adjust your fence and your material up to the jig, and start ripping wood. The reason that you go with a jig like this is for sheer safety. When you're using some of the other jigs I mentioned, there is a possibility of pinching up against your fence and the blade catching the material and everything exploding and everybody dying. That's an overreaction, but you get the point. The thin rip jig makes it so that all of your material can be cut away on the left side of your blade, which is exponentially safer. It's a little bit more work to make this jig work as opposed to the saddle jig, but it is safer, like I said before. Thank you guys for watching. Please let me know in the comment section your favorite jigs, not just from this video, but things that you use, so maybe that I can make them for my shop, because I love getting jiggy with it. Next week's video, I'm gonna be going over more jigs that you can buy. Stuff that you wanna invest your money on that'll make your table saw awesome. I know some of you may have questions about the router setup that I put in the table saw and if I'm gonna complete that because it doesn't have dust collection and it doesn't have a router cabinet. Yes, those videos are coming as well. So subscribe to the channel to see all of that, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.